Welcome back to a part 2 video. In part 1, we looked at through what are the fundamentals in JavaScript and while loop. We were creating a project using JavaScript to using a number game. So that's our name of our project. But in today's video, we'll create a project built with a twist. The twist is by using HTML and CSS to style and structure the web page to look responsive and interactive for users to click. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and let's get right into this video. Alright, so here I'm on my Visual Studio Code and now let's create a new file. So a new file we'll call it is index.html and also we create another file for CSS which is style.css or file we'll create is script. In here, once all the files are now created, then we could link out the CSS and JavaScript. Okay, there we go. Now all the CSS and JavaScript are now being styled. Let's call this title star generator. Okay, cool. So let's enter the ID inside of the input. Most importantly, we would be able to style the Java CSS page and function in JavaScript. So we always have to have an ID. So an ID, let's say uh, star main. Okay, so this is our new our ID, and now we'll create a CSS page and function in JavaScript. So we always have to have an ID. So an ID, let's say star main. Okay, so this is our new our ID, and now we'll create a button and as an on click button on click, we call this as star container star generator. Let's call this as star generator. You could call this any name, but I like to call it star generator because we'll be able to generate more numbers inside of the star. And let's say click the star button, click the star, and we'll create another div. So div and say star output. So this is our new div class. So once when you create a star output, then that means in JavaScript it will be able to display all of the generate numbers and as well all of the placeholders. When a user enters a star between 1 to 5, then user enters 4 and it will be able to generate, and the user can be able to click the star to generate all the outputs there. So we'll style this later in CSS and JavaScript. So this is the structure main page. This is my structure in HTML and what it looks like so far. Now let's style out using CSS. So we use this asterisk, and to use the asterisk, and we'll say margin 0, border margin. Let's call this as margin 0, box size thing, which is border box, and then let's say the background color we want to say basic. So now let's check in the HTML mainframe, and now this is what it looks like so far. Next, we would create the body. So the body will be the main structure page. So let's do align items. We call it center. Let's say center, and as well display. Let's call it flex, and let's do height, viewport height. So height will be 100, viewport height VH. And then color will be white. So FFF, actually not color, but background color instead. White. And also justify content will be center. And there we go. Now the body is now being styled. Okay, cool. So let's style the container. Use container as the property. So the container element, and now we would style the margin. Actually, padding will be 30 pixels, and as well, text align will be center. Box shadow will be, let's do 5 pixels, 5 pixels, 5 pixels, and as well RGBA at 3, 23, 24. And then let's freeze. Yeah, there we go. Now the box shadow is displayed well. Right now the box shadow is complete. This is what the container looks like. Let's add a star emoji before we dive deep into the styling. So to use a star emoji, use a window key and period, and you search out the star emoji, and the star emoji displays. There we go. Now it's now displayed on the screen. This is how you add the emoji. Okay, to start out the CSS, let's use an input, comma button. We want to style both of these variables as well. Sorry, both of the elements. So in here, let's call this margin as 5 pixels, 10 pixels, and border radius will be 5 pixels, and as well, let's use color, actually background color. Let's make it aquamarine for the button, and cursor will be pointer. So then now it's clickable. Next, let's display the padding to 5 pixels. Actually, keep it like that because the button is now separated. Input align, justify content, center, and there we go. Now it looks, now it's styled well. And before we do that, let's add a color as well to match up. Let's put blue. Yeah, there we go. Now here is the button and the input field. Okay, so next let's style out the button. So button, we'll call this as button. Let's style out the button tag because the button needs to be styled, and the input tag, input field. So then in here we'll call this as background color will be, give it as blue violet, and color, let's call this as white using the hexadecimal. This is white. And in here, to make it look responsive, let's call this as margin 5 pixels, 10 pixels. Okay, so cursor, we'll call it pointer. Now the button's now clicked already. And button, we use the pseudo class known as the hover tag. So hover, in here we'll style out the button using the pseudo class called the hover. And in this hover tag, we'll call it background color as probably blue. There we go. And cursor pointer, there we go. And now transition, not duration, but transition, call it 4 seconds. There we go. Now the button is all set. Change it slightly a bit. Now it kept on changing color, more of a darker color. Now it changed the color from a light purple or light violet to dark purple. Next, so the final styling will style is the star's output here. So in here you use the selector ID and name this as, actually this is one here's a class, so we use a class selector using a period, and in here that's, and your, of course, your element. So then we'll call color as golden or gold, and cursor pointer font size will be much larger. So then it will display the number beneath the input field and the button. So there you have it. Now here's the style now being completed, and we'll move on to the functionality in JavaScript. Once I've styled out all the properties in style.css, we will function the button using the input method, and as well as adding more properties to the onClick method within the input method and the button. So to do this, we would call this as function, and we're passing through the star generator. So we create an onClick button so that the user can be able to generate the button between 1 to 5, and it displays the button to the user, so that's very efficient. So function is star generator, we use brackets and as well as the curly brackets. So in here we call it as document, or before we call it as document.getIn by ID. Before that we use const and the variable that we're getting through, so you call it this as count, equals to document. We assign it to document, so we are assigning it to document dot get element by ID, and in here the ID will be the this ID, so star main. So star main will be the ID, and use semicolon. And again we use const method, and we wanted to get the ID of star output. Let's call this as output, and document dot get element by ID, and we're passing in the string element as star output, so we call this, and dot, this time not, it wouldn't not display a letter, but it will display as a value, a number, so call this as value. There we go. Now all of it has been generated with all the variables. So this one here is declared, but its value never read, but this time. Okay, cool. So this time we'll display it as inner button and HTML. But before we enter, we have to call this as out HTML, which is, we assign it to a we assign to a empty string. So in here, the reason why, the purpose for it is because that when you enter a number, for example 23, then I enter it, then the output will display right here. So the stars output in the div class, because we created the const output, and we'll use this as inner.html so that it will display the result in the web page. After, we'll have to call this as a declaration variable. So let I equals to 0, And in here, we'll use a while loop to declare this. So let while I is less less than 5 or less than count, but it's also and I is less than 5. So because we wanted so the user will enter between 1 to 5. So I will give it 0 and I is less than count because we don't know what the result is. If it could be less or it could be greater than, because 0 is of course a empty number. So so this is the while statement here, and we wanted to of course return. Okay, so I believe you want to use the output as inner .html, and we'll assign it to as a emoji, so a star emoji. So to do this earlier, we use um, shift and leave Windows key and dot, and we'll display the star emoji. So apply it, star emoji. So there we go. Wanna add it, include it as a string. There we go. Afterwards, we have to increment this by I plus plus to increment this so that it will of course generate the value. So then finally we use an if statement to use some logical thinking. So let's call this count is less than 5, and in here we'll call and in here let's use alert, and let's put as please enter the number between 1 and 5. So let's close all of this statement by using the what curly braces to format the JavaScript, and let's format the document, and there we go. Now now the JavaScript function is now complete. We'll test out to figure out whether if that statement is right or wrong. I'm going to conclude off this video. In my next video, we'll look at through on how to test out through the web page and make few changes and tweaks to ensure that the button and the input page is working for users to click. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe to your notification bell so you don't miss a video. I do sincerely apologize with the technical difficulty with my mic. I'm going to fix the issue, but in my next video, hopefully the mic should be clear and concise for you guys to hear. I'm going to end off. This is your boy Sofsen. I'm out. Peace.